The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Good morning to some. This is Marsha Diamond. I'm New Business Development with All You Serve Lakeside and Geneva with the Sandstone Companies. And welcome to All You Serve 2015 March webinar series. I'm going to give a few more minutes for people to get on. I know some people in the Northeast and having a little bit of weather problems, so I'm going to give a few more minutes. It's 3 o'clock, so we'll get underway about 3:02. Thank you for being so prompt. So hold tight for another 2 minutes, and we'll get started. Again, my name is Marsha Diamond, and thank you for attending this afternoon. For those of you who just come on, you are participating in the All You Serve webinar. We're giving about another minute or so for people to get on and connected, and then we will start our program this afternoon. For those of you just come on, we are going to get started in a few moments. We are going to get started about now. Welcome. You are participating in All You Serve March webinar, Eat with Your Eyes. My name is Marsha Diamond. I am the facilitator moderator, and I am the New Business Development with All You Serve and some of the other Sandstone companies. Today, just some housekeeping tips. If you have any questions, please type it in. After the webinar PowerPoint and the audio, as well as the certificate of participation, will be available early next week on the All You Serve website. You will also get a survey to tell us how this program was for you and any insight. So please take time to take that survey. Again, I'm Marsha Diamond, and welcome to today's webinar, Eat with Your Eyes. Any questions, please type them in to the question mode, and we will get to them. So I am very pleased to have with us today Nancy Lane, designer, visual merchandiser, and product concept director for Multiteria. Welcome, Nancy. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself before we move on to some of the takeaways?
Sure. Thank you, Marsha. I've been very active with merchandising for the past 17 years. I worked for a national distributor, and I've just joined the Multiteria Sandstone Group in October. And my background, again, has been with merchandising, and I've also done a lot with design. I'm very active in a couple of the organizations, which is NACUS and SNA. I've also been active in the healthcare market, really focusing on helping with remodels, updating facilities, dining services, and being effective with merchandising. So now we're going to move on to the program. We're going to cover some different parts of merchandising for you.
So today Nancy's going to talk about some takeaways. Will be identifying the satisfiers of food presentation, easy and quick strategies to implement today, and you will walk away with 4 food merchandising tips to increase customers and revenue. So without further ado, Nancy.
Thank you, Marsha. Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. Oops, let's go back, sorry. So what is merchandising and why is it important? You know, merchandising, you can see right here, we have a blank screen. We move into bringing the product in there and the final end results. But to get to this level at the end, you need to have a program in place. And I'm always using a program as the 4 different levels, and we're going to talk about that today. So there's a lot of questions that you might ask yourself. Do you have merchandising, and are you implementing the merchandising? But this was a project that I just worked on last month. You'll see some before and after pictures. Our keys to food service merchandising, it becomes a dining experience is more than just great food. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be at locations. The food's fantastic. We just take it up a level with merchandising. It typically increases your sales by 20 to 30%. You know, it promotes healthy choices. It also increases survey results. You have color, mood, elevation, and contrast. So right here you can see just a nice picture of this was a location that they wanted the customer to take meals home. So it was basically meals that they would serve and they would want for when they would go home for the evening. And merchandising was a key part of that. This is a little bit with color. So we're going to cover the first one, and we're going to talk about color. Color is the core of visual merchandising, and I thought it was very important that I had the opportunity to talk to someone. And they said, do you realize that you shop with your eyes twice? The customer walks up to your location, they survey it, and they decide if they're going to come in. And then the second time is when they walk up to where you have the food presentation. And then, again, they shop with their eyes. So you're always eating with your eyes. And with color, you can see that it enhances and complements the food. It eliminates that institutional look of the stainless steel pans, and it communicates a theme. You can see right here in the right-hand corner of the picture, right up here, and this is just layers of color. So again, it's grouping the purples together, the reds and the yellows. And you can see down at the bottom that we used the color there for the theme of the Tex-Mex and added those vibrant colors in there. And off to the right, this picture down at the bottom, again, that's just a condiment station, but we really focused on the different colors. And when something's not being used, they turn the crock upside down to fill in that hole. We don't want an empty hole in there. But again, we're looking at the reds, the yellows, the whites, and you want to use the color of your food also in your presentation.
So Nancy, you made a comment about color, if you can go back to that slide. When we eat with our eyes, many of us know that when you look at the purples and the greens and the component, especially in a healthcare facility, the idea is how can you make things pop? And since we're eating with our eyes, what happens is, as a lot of us dietitians who are on the call know, it stimulates the salivary glands, and therefore it kind of wakes up many of the different senses that allows us to have a great food experience. So what was an aha moment to me is grouping of colors, because the more powerful that color image is, the more stimulating it is. The other aha moment is many of us in facilities in our cafeteria lineup is we don't really think about it. We group our salad dressings. We don't really think about color. We think about groupings of components or dressings, the greens. We don't mix it up or group it together. Rethink the way you do your tray line. Rethink the way you do your cafeteria line when it comes to retail, where you're putting your condiments, and how you can group those colorful colors so they can give you the biggest impact versus just necessarily grouping them only on the condiment or idea they were. Because again, it's all about stimulating the senses to give a better experience.
You're correct, Marcia, that really I work with color with the food in the line. And this is an example on the next picture. You can see here, this was a spinning salad concept. So the customer walks up and they choose their base, their protein, and their toppings. The challenge was that when I went to merchandise this, they had a lot of product in this small footprint. So we had to do some elevations, but then we also wanted to focus on the food. And if you notice, we did the darker colors in the center that draws your eye in and the lighter colors to the side. So really, we focused on getting a lot of product in a small area, plus we focused on the color of the food. And I wanted those bright red tomatoes out in front and the carrots out in front. If we had put the lighter colors out there, would that draw you in? Probably not. Not as much as when you do those bright pops of color. So again, the placement of your food can be so critical. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about moods and trends. So we just left color. Remember that you might want to go back and think about the different locations that you have and you're using your color in your program. Now we're going to talk about the moods and trends. And one of the trends right now that we're seeing out there is the industrial style. I call it industrial chic style. It's the piece down at the bottom. It's very heavy. It's reclaimed wood. It's sustainable. We're seeing a lot of that. I just left a location last week where they were using their tabletops from barnwood, and it had just really fun textures and colors to it. And it was from the state, so it was a combination of different woods in there. But it was really unique to tell that story. And so the industrial style, this piece we're going to show you later on in the presentation, and it really, you can bring back, you can recoup your money, your return on your investment very easily with this piece. We're going to talk a little bit about farm to table, sushi, and global kitchen. So the mood really paints the story of visual merchandising. It welcomes the customer when they walk in. They know you've got a Tex-Mex. They know if you're doing farm to table or local. It elevates your brand. It identifies food products and healthy and also seasonal. You can see the healthy choices that I have in some of these pictures coming up. It highlights your specials and promotes high-margin items. So farm to table, you can see right here that we have a nice grouping up here on the top of this location. And it's bringing it in with the replica lettuce. And the canning jars are really hot right now. You can see that they're filled with replica strawberries and oranges. So none of these pieces, you don't have to worry about replacing the fruit or the veggies. Again, there's a lot of high-quality replicas out there that you can use. This lettuce can even go through the dishwasher. It's so durable. But this gives you a nice farm-to-table local. Again, you're seeing the organics, the sustainable, the farmers markets. All that stuff is becoming very trendy and popular. And when you're doing this farm-to-table look, you can see down here at the bottom that you've got a nice heavy piece. You want it a little bit more earthy, and this is a large piece that's filled with the apples and identifies the apples. It makes it kind of fun for the customer when they walk in and they were able to see this. And sushi, I thought this was interesting. If you look at the picture to the left, you can see that it's just paper down there. The sushi is very washed out. If you look at the picture at the bottom here, you can see that the green mat, this is a washable material. You can go to the dishwasher, soak in the basket, but that bright neon green pops that sushi off that mat. I had the opportunity last week working on a project in the Carolinas. We put that sushi mat down, and the sushi just popped off. People were grabbing it. And so we loved it so much we ended up using it through all the grab-and-go cases throughout their different programs. We even used it for salad. It works very well for salad if you want to use it in your grab-and-go case as a mat. So that bright color, it's kind of really neon, but it really works very well. Global kitchens are another trend out there that you're seeing. And build your own stir fry. Customers are wanting to customize or build, you know, the spinning salad. We're now seeing build your own pizza, sandwiches, build your own stir fry. So global kitchens is another area that you really want to merchandise. You can see down here in the right-hand corner, again, just using a little bit of communication and a display plate, identifying the different parts of the merchandising with your signage and your display plate. And then over here on the left, you know, those are identified as the products that they're going to pick. I thought it was interesting that you've got the black Crocs and then the white Crocs, and that really sets those different foods apart. So you've got your sauces, and then you have your different pieces that you're choosing. So again, merchandising is placement of food, the colors that you use to place the product in. So this becomes a very important part, is to really enhance the food experience for the customer. So one of the trends, again, with the global kitchen that you're seeing is that there's Korean, there's Japanese, and Brazilian. All those are coming in that global kitchen. But moving on to contrast. So it's the touch and feel of visual merchandising. It's the combinations of different materials. So it's the metals, the wickers, the woods, the bamboos, the melamine. And it's similar to if you were to have a silk top or a wool blazer. You can feel the difference in the textures and the contrast. This is the touch and feel of visual merchandising. So visually, when you walk up, you need that contrast to give you depth and give you layering in your merchandising program. These are nice platters to the right. I've used those as far as even decor or serving pieces. They work very well. When we're talking about the melamines, this is a neat piece here, and melamines have come a long way compared to the old plates you remember back in the 50s and 60s. These pieces here are fantastic because they can go through the dishwasher. You can wash them and sanitize them. But if you look at these pieces, they have been, it's a picture that has been embedded into the melamine. So it looks like a cutting board. They're not to be used as a cutting board. They're more for display, but the idea is that you can go ahead and wash and sanitize, clean these pieces compared to a wood cutting board. Woods are nice to use, but again, when you're putting food on a product and you want to make sure it's clean, these are a fun piece to use. And melamine, again, has come very far. When we talk about contrast, down here in this left-hand corner, you can see the little plants. And again, these are replicas. There's a lot of fantastic replicas out there now that you can use. But if we had nothing on that counter, it would look very flat. It wouldn't have that depth and that contrast. So just by adding a small grouping can make it so much more exciting and fun when you walk up to those locations. And two, if you even took these groupings and you put them into kind of a triangle, it would make it look different. So you may have some decor or products back there that you might want to change and just pull them tightly together. I have another picture that we'll talk about when we get into a little bit more of the decor on how to pull those groupings together.
Nancy, before you go on,
Yeah.
there's a question. So you mentioned about mood, and the points paints the story of visual merchandising. So all of these 4 food merchandising tips that you're talking to people about the customers and revenue, they basically contribute to that mood, or is mood a subgroup of it?
You know, I really think mood's more of a subgroup. There's a variety of things that you can do with a mood. It's really setting that experience for the customer when they walk in. It's getting them to the point of, you know, when we talk about our before and after pictures, you're going to see that example where before,
Identify, a big thing is about the healthy initiative, and so you have the ability to paint that story or that visual merchandising through components like this and also make it more embracing. Is that true? Is
yes,
that what your experience has showed? I know you said about 20% more. Besides your ROI from that overall mood and experience, it helps that dining experience and also the image of that hospital brand.
Correct. Correct. I've had the opportunity to see, we've done some projects where we've done it from the beginning to the end and watched the customer and see what happens after they're in there to increase the sales that day. And it's amazing. You know, I had one location could not even sell a case of bananas in a week. We did it in one day just by merchandising them in a different basket and tilting it toward the customer. Again, not changing the menus, really just focusing and really key in on some of these different products just to elevate that food and give them that dining experience. You know, as a customer walks in and they do that, wow, this is amazing, or this is warm, this is inviting, you know, that really makes a difference, and it helps with the brand. If you want to build a brand like the Global Kitchen or the Spinning Salad, that's how you do it with the merchandising tips and ideas and the program.
Thank you.
And this contrast picture here, the location that I had to work with was basically all glass, and it was outdoors. And it was like a building that was coming out of the ground, and it was in the park, and so there's a lot of trees and a lot of glass. And they wanted to bring that outdoors in, so we ended up using a lot of replicas. Again, the high quality, it looks nice, and then the metal, I love the way the metal worked there. So we brought the outdoors inside just by using, again, a lot of replica plants that look real, to one point where I have people trying to water them. There's a basil out there that just looks so real and it feels real that people have tried watering the plant. But anyways, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So it's sitting back and taking a look at everything. When I walk into a location, I like to take a few notes, watch the customers as they're walking through. Again, ask the end user, what do they want from this experience? And they usually tell me, we want this feel where we're outdoors. We want to bring some of that outdoors inside. So then the focus is a little different on this project compared to maybe the Tex-Mex style. I wanted vibrant colors. I want it to be exciting. So again, contrast can add that layer in there for you. So elevation, this is where it enhances the visual merchandising. It elevates it. So it just really sets the food off. And very simple pieces, one Chilowich mat that's laying on the counter, and again, a couple decor pieces, making it very simple for the customer. And as we were talking about decor, I wanted to show you right here that if you can take the pieces and group them together, a lot of times I'll walk into a location, you already have some gorgeous decor pieces that are accenting or working with your lines. We just pull those groupings together. A lot of times they end up in a line, in a straight line on the counter. So when you pull them together, it really adds a nice impact. It makes it look like a larger grouping. And you can see right here, there's a nice triangle. I always talk about the triangle. So we come up, and there's a triangle there. There's also a small one. If you want to pull that apart, you could say the plate and the pods in the bowl. That would be another triangle. But again, pulling those groupings together really adds that impact. And that's another part of elevation. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see the silverware. And again, a lot of product in a small footprint. So I see those challenges all the time when I'm at a location. I will walk in, and they're trying to squeeze all this stuff in this small area. Take it up. When you take it up, you've got 3 bowls. It would be 1 bowl in that area if it was just sitting on the counter. So again, if you elevate it up, you can get a lot of product in a small area. That always seems to be one of the bigger challenges. Even on new builds, I've been in new locations where we couldn't get all the air pots, all the teapots, all that in the serving area. So we had to, again, bring it up or bring another piece in. We're talking about the decor, and you can now, again, see that there's a nice triangle here and down here. And again, that's just very clean and simple. So it was elevating that up, doing it on top of the sneeze guards. That design was chosen by the director as far as having it very white and also very clean, and then the pops of the green in there. So a lot of color in this location, but keeping it very simple.
And a point to be made about the plants is those aren't real. You could decide to bring in, we'll talk a little bit later about living walls, but the ability to have that. I know you gave me an aha moment today when you were speaking to me earlier. We were talking about the plants. Can you share that with the group, Nancy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, you can. The replicas now just look fantastic. And, when you have the real plants, they're just hard to take care of. And, again, you worry about bugs coming in. But when you want to use some of these replicas, they're just fantastic, and the quality that they've done is just absolutely amazing. So again, the herbs, like I said, somebody's trying to water the plant that looks so real. Adding a few grasses in there, that's always another one. You saw that picture at the very beginning, just a few simple grasses added in, and I think that's on our before and after pictures. You'll see that makes a difference. It just adds a nice freshness to this area. So when you walk up, you feel like it's very clean and fresh looking. So again, I highly recommend some of the different plants and the different pieces. Very easy to use, fun to use in the groupings. So the 4 areas of merchandising, we have coffee and tea bars, we have trends, we have countertop display fixtures, and signage. And the beverage trends have always been, I've been working on the trends presentation with the NACUFS organization now for the past 3 years. And we're working on another trends presentation, and beverages are back in again at the top 10. So
for people that, for people that don't know, NACUFS is the National Association for Colleges and Universities. Again, food service directors, an array of people in the non-commercial market segments.
Correct. Thank you, Marcia. You get so used to using just the NACUFS that you forget. But we're working on the trends presentation, and we're finalizing one right now. Beverages were back in there again, up in that high top 10. And, now we're seeing smoothie bars, proteins. You're seeing also a different variety of tea bars. And I thought it was interesting. Universities are also offering that as an opportunity to give you different teas. And they'll put them in the air pots. They'll brew them right in the air pots. And it's kind of nice because you've got your coffee and then you've got your tea bar next to it. It really adds another level to the hot beverages. But then your hydration stations are really hot right now. You're seeing a lot with infused waters, using fruits and vegetables, and we'll talk a little bit about hydration when we go down into another slide. But we'll move on to the hot beverage area.
It's interesting what you just said, Nancy. Nancy, one point. It's interesting what you said. We're so used to having the tea bags and having the components of tea bags and having that waste factor, but having the teas already infused, the flavoring, and having them pots, number one, gives people a chance to try different things. Number two, less waste from paper and less waste from tea bags being wasted. So the idea of in introducing new product lines and new flavors or local flavors or seasonal flavors of teas is a great opportunity, and giving some people a little bit different. Again, raising awareness, local, healthy initiatives.
Yeah, it was interesting. The location that put the tea bar in worked with one of their local tea vendors, and they were able to teach them how to brew the tea so it tasted a high quality. And it was a loose leaf tea that went through into the air pot. And then they offered the different flavors. Very simple. That's all they did was they just had a countertop with the air pots. And of course, we marked the flavors. And it really took off. It just took it to another level instead of just, like you said, having the tea bag there. So if you feel that tea is hot in your area, you might want to look into that. And again, that was a very easy one for them to add in. And work with some of your local vendors on the tea program. But also we talked about the industrial cart. Remember at the beginning you saw that as one of the trends. It's up here in the right-hand corner of the slide. And this cart right here it returns its investment usually in about 3 months. Again, it's a little bit more pricier than just a regular cart, but it looks nice, and any products that's put in the basket just sell like crazy. So it works very well for a coffee bar, tea bar. If you want to put baskets of fruit on the top of it, it's done. Again, it's got that reclaimed wood. It's just chunky, and it just draws the customer in. It's always worked. I've sold quite a few of these and merchandised them, and it has been fantastic. Over here, we talked about the catering program. You can see, again, the orange chillowich. This is another level for catering. Take a photo. That way any staff can go ahead and place this for catering. It looks nice. It's a very simple beverage setup, but the idea was to make this so that the customer had the same experience and the staff was able to place it out there. So teas and hot beverages have really taken off. Again, your coffee stations, your coffee. And now we're going to move into melamines. This is green innovation. And you can see here that is some melamine bowls and platters. Very interesting. It's mixed 50% with bamboo. So when you pick up the plate, it has more of a texture to it. It's very light. You cannot break it. Again, melamine is very durable, and it can be sanitized in the dish room. But this is a nice piece to use because it's just different. So when you pick it up, you can feel that it's very earthy. It's very organic. Sustainable. So if you're wanting to use some pieces like that, it's a 50-50. So that it looks more like a china plate. But again, it's a melamine, so it's very durable for you to use. So they've taken these melamines and just really went off the chart with all the different ideas and changes they've made. So we're talking about living walls and herbs, and I'm going to turn this over to Marcia, and she can explain to you a little bit more about the living walls.
So we talk about trends, and we talk about moods, and we talk about painting the story, the visual merchandising. A big influx into B&I, into corporate America, into commercial and non-commercial are the living walls and the herb walls. And bringing a little bit of outside inside. If you're up in the Northeast right now, we're having our major, another snowstorm, and the idea is of having gardens inside brings a different kind of mood. So the living walls have been starting to become more and more from not only from the health components, but from the healing components, and also from a mood component. It definitely raises the level of seeing green versus white snow. Some of you may be skiers, but not when you're shoveling it out. But they're becoming much more popular, and you don't have to do a whole dining room. You could do one back wall. You can see I showed you on the right above, you can see right above a table, you can see a whole wall. And on the left is what we call the eco wall. Now all three are hydroponic, so no bugs, very easy water supply. And the eco walls are herbs. So you can have your garden year round. You can get people involved. If you have a pediatric hospital, you can start to get the children involved. If you have a senior facility, you can get people involved, as well as you can use that greenery in your cooking. So again, the smell, the scent brings the senses and elevates the experience in the brand. And again, you can have simply one piece like here or a whole entire wall. But there are a whole bunch of vendors that do it and do it well. These particular people, Eco Walls, are actually working with Disney to get their living walls up. So again, bringing a little bit back into your hospital. The Cancer Centers of America have now put this into their lobbies and some of their cafeterias, again, for the healing component as well as some of the nutritional component. So again, setting it, merchandising, again, bringing that whole image and branding and elevating it.
Thank you, Marcia. It's interesting when you see the herbs. There's a lot of gardens that are going up, too. I've seen some roof gardens that are being built in some of the dining halls. That's part of the project. So they're putting the herbs up on the roof if they don't have ground space. There's a lot of things happening now where, again, you're doing that sustainable, local, keeping it fresh. Talking about countertop display fixtures, as the customer gets close to the register, these are great pieces to use at the register. The one over here on the right would be fantastic to use with fruit. So if a customer comes in to get a cup of coffee at your location and they check out to the register, you can also offer different pieces like this and elevate that toward the customer. Fill it with fruit, again, power bars. You know, we're seeing people are snacking 5 times a day now. They might not have a chance to get a meal. So they'll grab a power bar and they'll have that later, or they'll have that for an evening snack. So again, the piece over here on the left I just used when I was just in the Carolinas, and if you look at this one here, that is being used as a counter. What happened was everything gets in baskets and it's just like lined up in a basket and it's very flat. Bring it up toward the customer. When I had the opportunity to put this piece in with the 3 baskets there and the brown metal, the customers were buying stuff while I was putting it into the containers because it brought it up to their eye level. So you can get a lot of product in a small area, too. Again, at the register, I know there's a lot of things going on, but take a picture of your register area, talk about it, see if there's some things that you can do to elevate that product up for the customer to make it easier. And it's really, it upsells itself if it's visually right there for them. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about signage. This is one of the areas that's really easy that you can walk away with, and if you're going to do anything when you go back, signage would probably be the one that you want to go back and check. In your retail operations, you can see here a new item. It draws you in, and again, gluten-free. With the identifiers here, this identifies the product, but it also lists the allergens for the customer, so they can make a decision on the allergens. And also, too, the calories, the proteins. You're seeing a lot of that stuff now being listed with a lot of your restaurants. And so the customer can make a decision whether they want to purchase that product or not. And again, listing the different things. And right down at the bottom, you can see the ginger sesame chicken wrap. it lists all the different things for you, plus it lists the allergens. So when you go back, make sure you have communication. That's an easy one. Plus, it adds a little bit of decor for your area, too. We were talking.
The other thing is, going back to the signage, make sure your brand, the name of your cafeteria, it's not just a little cafe. If it's, Diamond Hospital, make sure it has that brand. And so, because again, that elevates it. It's not just an afterthought or a piece of paper that's just put there. So again, if you have a C-store, a lot of hospitals are now, and senior livings are giving a lot of C-stores, whether it's a grab-and-go, whether it's in the cafeteria, all that imagery, that branding, yes, doing it up front, but once you do it, it's done, and it looks, even using the signage, that acrylic on the right, makes a big difference than just sticking something down, and that elevation.
Yeah, Marcia, you're correct on that, and I forgot to bring that point up here, that this is Rita's. So we wanted to brand Rita's, so the R became very important to them. So they custom designed that tag to have that piece on there. Then everything else is either written in on with the marker, or this one was done with P-Touch tape. So or a sticker, it's a clear sticker that you just type in on the computer, and then you put that on the label. So the label is a plastic material that's easy to clean, very durable, but the branding part of this became very important to them, so they really wanted to get that R in there, and that's called Rita's, and like you said, they have it on every tag as you walk through that location. So branding your program is really key when you come to signage. We were talking about this today, and we thought it was interesting that when you take a look over here to the left, it's the chef special. It's just on a piece of plain kind of white paper. It doesn't really, it's not fun and exciting, and there's not a lot of color. But then when you have a taste of Italy, that one really stands out. So if you're going to do some communication and some signage, make sure that you add large fonts, work with your fonts, and then also to make sure you've got some color in there. And you can see all the other ones in large letters when you're walking in as a welcome sign. It has been proven that you have 3 seconds to grab somebody's attention. So you do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. They'll either continue reading your sign or they'll walk on. So you want to grab the first thing. It says Cupcake Craze. That grabs your attention. So again, make sure that you grab their attention, and then you give them the information about your hours, your menu, something new. You have a new product coming in. You have a special. So really the communication can be one of the things you walk away with today. Go back and take a look at your location. Can we add some menu signs in there? There's wall, there's floor, there's countertop. There's anything from, you can type it. Down at the bottom is just a clipboard. I thought it was very interesting. They have that in a coffee shop. That's very warm. But again, we talked about make sure that it's large enough so that you can read it, so you don't have to walk right up to it. Because there's nothing worse than, I've seen little tiny signs and you can barely read them.
And the other thing is, if you don't have good signage, it slows people down, because people will then read it and slow down that line, and therefore they slow down that whole process in your cafeteria and makes bottlenecks. So again, communication is really important, but where you place it, whether it's a kiosk or whatever you're doing, make sure it's clarified and clean, clean, and it communicates well. And it's not, again, if it's in an area where it's going to have a bottleneck, there's another challenge. So placement's important as well.
And it's interesting you brought that point up, is the placement, because I was at a location and they placed the digital screens. Everybody's seen the new digital ones that are out. And they have it in the wrong location, so they call it like a whiplash, because you got to bend your neck back and you got to tilt your head back to read it while you're standing in line, because you're too far queued into line. So, and you can't step back because you got somebody behind you. So they see people tilting their head back to kind of read this digital sign. So they're going to go back and replace them. But watch your customers as they're walking through, and visually you'll start to see if they're getting the communication, or like you said, if there's a bottleneck and you have an issue, you might want to revisit the communication or the menu boards. So in summary, we're going to talk about the visual merchandising. It communicates a theme, supports your brand program, creates an image, and again, the ambiance and the excitement. Remember we talked about the beverage hydration station. This one right here is very interesting because it's a hydration station for beverages. And, water is really hot right now with infused water, juices, and by putting the fruits and the vegetables in that, the tube. There's a lot of different things that you can do for that. But for the decor part of this, I had the challenge to merchandise and decor this one, and we put the red chilliwich on the bottom on the countertop. And then in the tubes, it's just replica oranges and strawberries, so we don't have to worry about it. It just gives you that, and there's some lemons behind the circle that you can't see. But again, that gives you that visual that when you walk up, you know this is a hydration station for water. So it really makes it, again, fun and exciting for the customer to see that. And by using the replicas, you don't have to worry about replacing them. And that's in a tube that's sealed with a top. So Tex-Mex. This was one of the themes that we talked about in the very beginning. This, again, fantastic when the customer walks up. We heard from the customer saying, wow, this is making such a difference. It's very warm, inviting. We know it's got that kind of that flair of the Tex-Mex style. And the staff. It was interesting to hear the results of the staff. The staff was very excited. And that was the aha moment for the director to say, wow, I didn't really realize the staff would take this much enjoyment in this merchandising. They kept asking who was the lady that put all the products around. And so to get their feedback, that really makes them excited to come into work too. And plus take care of the products. I always try to get their buy-in and ask them how the line is set. What do you recommend? What are some of your challenges? Well, we can't get this product facing the customer. Well, then let's talk about some things that we can do. So always trying to get that feedback from the staff really helps. But this, I mean,
one of the things I would recommend, because I know when we talk about patient tray, we do patient tray audits. And one of the things I would recommend is to do a retail healthcare audit. And what that means is a weekly, have your line people have a checklist and go through it. And by doing that, you're always tweaking your operation. We do it for patient meal trays, and we do it for resident meal trays when we need to do it for retail. So put together a checklist. Look down this PowerPoint when you get it and say, what items do I need to be cognizant, aware of, and have a checklist. But you as the supervisors don't only do it. Engage your employees so that everyone feels part of that team in a collaboration.
And I think that's a great idea with the checklist. You can also just go through there and make sure, like you said, that it looks nice, it looks the way, especially if you finish a project. I always say take pictures, put it in a book, make sure your product doesn't wander over to the pizza area or the salad bar. You want that, once you invest your time and money into this, you want that area to stay the exact same way that you put it together. So, and also it becomes a planogram as you put the product and the food in line so that they know where you want that food placed. So use that checklist, planogram, photo, whatever works. It really helps.
It will make an impact.
Oh, it does. It's huge. And the staff really appreciates it because they've got a picture and they've got something they can go back through and make sure everything's in the right place. We're talking about local, and I think, Marcia, you were talking about honey. Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry. And when you're branding your program, you want to talk about local or you want to do any of the different products that you're featuring, make sure you bring them out in front and center and then, again, merchandise them with the different pieces. You can see over here on the right-hand side, that's a nice industrial cart. It has a stainless steel top. But then the baskets are very chunky wood. And you're going to talk about local apples or oranges, or maybe we receive these, less than 50 miles. Whatever it means for the customer, they want to know where their food's coming from. And so really tell them the story. I thought it was interesting. I was at the location last week, and they have a big board right when you walk in that says every local vendor that they're using and how many miles they are and what's the product. And it can be as simple as their apples, their oranges, again, some of their meats. So they're letting the customer know that these are definitely local products that we're using in our dining facility. And you want to explain a little bit about your honey that you were talking about, your winter honey? Is that correct?
Well, there are hospitals now producing honey and have beehives. I know several New Jersey hospitals are doing it right now, some school systems. And what's nice about that, we're becoming sustainable. We're helping the bee population. And what they're producing, not only, I just got honey yesterday, and they have a winter and a fall honey that they gave me, and then they have flavored honey, and now they're making soaps and lotions from the honey. So not only are they generating revenue, return on their investment, but they're also doing sustainable things, and they're also, it's their own. They're calling it, they're putting a label on from that hospital. Just found out yesterday one of the restaurants is now buying honey from the hospital. So again, it's just a community. You live in, you're all becoming, part of communities, and so therefore engaging people feel better about it. Again, it elevates the brand.
Yeah, and that's a key when you're going to merchandise those pieces. Again, tell the story, make sure they're out front and center, and make sure the product is placed in some kind of merchandising piece that really sets it off. So we're seeing a lot of that with the local. I thought this was interesting. They have put together, it's called the Kitchen Recipe. And so what they've done is they put all the products, so each week when you walk in, there's a new recipe and all the products grouped together. Even though this is tuna salad, very simple, they have everything there from a can opener to the tuna fish to the bread. And every week the customers get excited to find a new recipe that they can put together and cook. I mean, cooking has become a major part of everybody's life. You're seeing it on all the TV shows and all the chefs. And so this made it kind of fun. And it was a nice upsell for them. Again, the customer walks in every week looking for that.
Now, dietitians, don't get excited. It's the white bread. I could see the dietitians cringing on the call. It should have been whole wheat, a whole bunch of things. I agree. But, this is reality. This is a picture.
But this is something that you could also do for healthy choices. So you could do the recipe card, have them all pre-printed, and then put the different pieces together. And if any of them are in the refrigerator, make sure that recipe card's over there by the freezer or the refrigerator, a product that you have to keep chilled. But again, the customers look forward to each week what's the new recipe of the week. And that's just, it really kind of adds excitement and brings people in. So that's something to think about. And you can tweak it, again, with the whole wheat bread and maybe a light mayo. So we talk about the before and the after pictures. You can see up here on the top left-hand corner, that's just a serving counter with the mats of rocks in there. And this is the after. So all we did was add the grasses in there. Each of these containers have food similar to some of your grocery store chains that want you to take food and warm it up later to take home. So the idea was that you come in for lunch and you eat your lunch, and then you also get a meal to take home. So think about that as an opportunity for your dining facilities. But when we merchandise it, we just added a few of the grasses in there. You, again, remember the greens that really add that nice texture, color, and it adds that depth into that program. But this has taken off very well for them. So they have a nice to-go container for the customer. They get a meal for later. It could be meatloaf. It could be anything. It could be fish. And then they take it home, they warm it up, and they've got dinner. So if you're running late or you're going to be busy, it's a nice opportunity to, again, offset and give the customer another option for them and to purchase another product from you. This is a before grab-and-go case, and I'm quite sure a few people have grab-and-go cases. I've seen quite a few of them out there, and I highly recommend that the top shelf is where we do the merchandising. So we're going to see in the after picture how we merchandised it. And this is just stainless steel shelves, and they're very cold, and so we wanted to warm this area up. So what we did with the after, you can see right here, we got the big grab-and-go letter, so you know it's grab-and-go. It plays off the sign above it. And then we added some decor over here. Again, the green grasses always work very well. Just a couple of the tin boxes, and on the front of that we wrote cookies and brookies. They have a brownie with cookie bites in it. And so we just played off whatever product was in there. They have some fruit cups in the center. Again, we just used that as a signage to draw you in. We saw sales increase that day while we were there. Customers were drawn into this grab-and-go case. And also the mat was put on the stainless steel shelf. So you can see right there, there's a plastic mat that's added to each one of the shelves. And it's a product that's used in grocery stores all the time. So it can be cleaned and sanitized in a sink, not in a dishwasher. But this can be put in a sink if needed, or replaced if over time. But it just adds a nice warmth to that grab-and-go case, and it kind of draws you in with those bright letters up on the top. So again, if you have some grab-and-go cases, take a look at it, take some pictures, stand back. If you want to really warm it up and brighten it up, again, add the liner and merchandise the top shelves. It pretty much, those become a catch-all, and they just, you're not going to buy off the top. Visually, your eye is going to go to the center, those shelves in the middle. That's where you're really going to be merchandising and selling. So when you go back, take a look at your grab-and-go cases. Here's the before picture of the counter. Now remember the counter at the very beginning of the presentation, and we showed you the 3 different levels. And this was the crates that were used in the very beginning when we walked in. So I took some pictures, wrote down some notes, and it was apples, oranges, and bananas, but you couldn't see in there. And plus the fruit was not being turned over. There was some problems with some fruit that was not in great shape in the bottom of the crates because they would just dump another load on top. And the customer couldn't tell, and so they were constantly standing there picking up the fruit and looking. And so I knew we had a problem with that area. And so what we ended up doing, we added that industrial style crank table, the sign, and then the fruit went in a wire basket so you could see it. So visually the customer can see the fruit and pick it very quickly and out the line. So you saw that bottleneck, and when I saw that problem, we knew we had an issue. We had to have a solution, and the solution was the wire baskets, which the manager was very happy with because visually now you can see, and the customer can make that decision as they're checking out. And you can see down below, we had an area there, just a thin shelf. We wanted to add something there. We just put the grass there. Again, keeping it very simple. 4 pieces of decor, your signage, your crank table, and that pulls this whole program together. Now we talked about, stainless steel pans. And again, the food was fantastic. The food was wonderful. We just wanted to take it up a level, and that's what we did here with the Tex-Mex and adding those different colors, the different serving vessels in shapes and sizes, and it doesn't have that flat line. If you look up here on the left, remember I talked about a flat line, your eye just flies over the line. You're not looking at each individual pan. Over here, when you have the elevation and you take the customer through, you can see the different levels. And so that really makes it exciting and fun for the customer, plus it helps them to really visually see some of the different food that's in those vessels. So you can definitely see the difference from the left to the right and adding that color plus the elevation there. And really, your return on your investment, when you invest in some of these serving vessels, really you see that probably within 1 to 2 months because you'll increase your sales. Now I'm going to turn this back over to Marcia.
Thank you, Nancy. And one of the things with retail healthcare is that you need to sell the goods through customers through a visual medium, not just say it's good for you or not good for you. But if you want to get certain initiatives out there, use the visual merchandising that Nancy has spoken about, and it will sell itself. Also, the image of you, the hospital, has to be projected. And if you're just going to use stainless steel pans, then you're going back to that more institutionalized look. Doesn't take a lot of funding to do this. They're very reasonable. And that's the other thing. If you're interested in any of the items on these, send me an email, and I'll get with Nancy and get you that information back. Remember, you're creating a great experience and obviously an optimum sales environment and a return on your investment in this retail. It's not the same old retail, nor is it the same old hospital food anymore. So even when you look at patient trays, and we're going to be doing a webinar on that, you'll find that merchandising really speaks volume and returns your experience. For another housekeeping tip, we're running, where do food service directors get their equipment information? We're running a poll, and we're giving out 3 ways to enter to win a Happiness at Work book. Go to allyouserve.com and hit the survey, tweet it out, hashtag allyouserve, or go to LinkedIn and follow us and tell us. We're always about elevating experience. If you need any meal assembly, meal delivery, the hydration cart you saw with mobile, give us a call. For housekeeping tips, the PowerPoint, the CEU credit participation will be available on Monday at the All You Serve website. And I'm going to answer, I think we have a few more minutes for a few questions. And I'm going to see if there's questions. One question. The question was asked is that if I had to take one of the 4 things, which one should I start with? Merchandising tips.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If I had to take one of the, you said 4 things. You said color, you said texture, contrast, color, texture, contrast, and you
mood.
said mood, elevation. Which one would you start with? Can you just start with one?
You know, I would start with the mood because that's the one that I go into. It's the example was the Tex-Mex. We needed to elevate that up from just a flat line and stainless steel pans. So if you're going to want to start with one, it would be the mood, and it could be very simple as taking a few pictures, standing back, and saying, what do we want here in this area? Do we want the salad bar to be fresh looking? What can we do? So you need to really, that would probably be the first one to work on, and how to set that mood for the customer. So it's really setting that decor experience for them when they walk in. So start in one area and work from there, and as you increase sales, then keep adding to your merchandising. But if you can invest in an area and see that return, or at the register and start to see the return, then you can start adding more if you're limited on a budget. But I would start with the mood first.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. That's the end of our webinar. And Nancy, thank you again for your expertise. Any questions or any other information, you can contact me at mdiamond@allyouserve.com if you need any other information. And thank you for joining us. Hope we helped you build your healthcare retail image and brand. And join us again for our next webinar in May. Thanks very much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.